Thank you everyone for coming. So this show is a little different, well, a lot different than my usual work. I say it's a radical departure, but it's sort of installation, sort of a meditation. The last 6 months I got really interested in plant communication and intelligence and the way that we communicate with plants, like humans communicate with plants, the way that animals communicate with plants in nature, the insects, how, the weeds are just as important as the flowers or the trees that we sometimes take for granted things like simple things like the weeds. The weeds around my house really kind of inspired me because we let our yard get out of control, and I just really started to appreciate all of the mustard plants and even the pepper trees and the things that I never really took time to really investigate them. And so when I started collecting plants, I went out into my yard. Most of the stuff I printed was just from my yard, or I live in the foothills of San Diego, so near some nature trails, so I'd go out and pick flowers or just pick wildflowers and weeds and bring them home and start trying to do stuff with them. So I started with jelly plates because I'd never done jelly plates. And a lot of what I did here was using techniques I'd never used before. My work before, I spent years owning my own studio and screen printing and doing prints for other artists, where I had to be very super anal and meticulous. And I still have that kind of mentality a lot towards my art. And this was kind of trying to break free of that idea of perfection, that idea of we have to be perfect, as artists, and especially as printmakers, I think we hold ourselves even up to a higher ideal of, this has to be the most amazing print you ever did, and it's so you've got to impress all these other people who, spent 7-10 years studying printmaking. So this was kind of an exploration into different techniques. So gelatin plates, I started making my own gelatin plates then, which were totally Wabi Sabi because they had all kinds of imperfections. And it was really frustrating at first trying to make the art, and I was, but I was so immersed in it, and I just kept going. And with every mistake, or there were also happy accidents and things that happened that I didn't know would happen or expect to happen, and I just kind of fell in love with making art again, and the whole process of making art, even if it was messy and it just didn't always work. And there was frustration, but there was also joy and pleasure and unexpectedness and unpredictability, and that I started thinking about Wabi Sabi and how you have to kind of accept that in life. Things are never going to be perfect. Your life's never going to be perfect. You're never going to look perfect. Your house is never going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect, and just how we deal with that, and how we kind of make something beautiful out of that, or see the beauty in that, because nothing is permanent, nothing lasts, and there's this whole Zen concept of that, to meditate on that and to realize that, in a way, everything is kind of empty, and we all, kind of suffer. So accepting that was kind of part of my meditation. So I used different, I have done cyanotypes many times as a student, but the way I approach the cyanotypes, for instance, is even different than my usual way of printing a cyanotype. I use mostly paper stencils, my body, flowers. I only did one film through the printer. And most of the work is very, very, very simple. Just that's one of the concepts of Wabi Sabi is simplicity, intimacy, frugality. And I was trying to, make art without a press, without being super technical or super complicated, but just trying to explore that connection between nature and myself. Also, this whole series here was more about the way plants and trees act kind of like they say, the plants are the lungs of the earth. So, plants literally breathe in our carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen, and how nature and how plants are kind of like humans. They say that plants actually have not a brain like we do, but they have a network of neurons that communicate to other trees and other plants. So there's this is called a cellular basis of consciousness. So it's like the concept that plants act like a brain and can communicate with other plants. And they also say plants have a series of I forget what it's called, but cellular stuff that pumps their nutrients through, kind of like a heart, and then some of it's about, this one's about, how we see plants and how we love nature and plants, and how people, just looking at a plant or a tree or a flower will make us, our serotonin levels go up, it makes us happy, makes us relax. We just love looking at, flowers, and we love having plants in our house, and that's just it's kind of a natural thing, I think, for humans, that some of this is too about that, reaching for that connection, or trying to get that peace and that feeling of being connected to nature. I guess for me, being connected to nature also means seeing the beauty in the little things that we take for granted, like hummingbirds and ravens. I have them all over my house. They're everywhere. I love them so much, and just watching them kind of inspired me to put birds on things, but just kind of the simple things in life. I guess is this show's theme. Nothing super complicated or political like my other works. That's why I kind of, say it's very different. But in a way, I think I learned a lot from working this way and working with different mediums in different materials that I never worked with before, doing things like lanterns or doing, little different things that I just kind of explored and had fun, and so that's why I call it embracing perfection, Wabi Sabi, because this is pretty much as imperfect as you get.
It's all beautiful and perfect.
Thank you, Joe. So that's it.
Great.
And Christine.
I have a question about this piece down here on the right that has, how did you do that with your hands? Can you tell a little bit about that process?
Oh, the process? So these are cyanotypes, so it's potassium ferrocyanide and potassium ferrocitrate, or I think, and you mix it and put the paper, this watercolor paper, and I just put flowers down and put my hands down.
How long did you have to keep your hands there to make the print?
I was I think those were 5 minutes, or no, it was 2.5, 3 minutes. Yeah, and the legs, I put the flowers under the glass, and then I sat on the thing and just put my feet on it like this. But I love that one because usually, it's just black or white, but the sun went underneath my leg and kind of gave a little bit of tone, which was kind of unexpected, but it was fun just hanging around with, they're very simple and like it's been done like a million times before, but it was just about, being like, what can I do now? Like, how can I express myself without feeling like, oh, I gotta make this like perfect print,
I think that, it's not overtly connected to the other political work that you've done. And I think that it really does show some joy on your part and just kind of not having to state something.
Right.
But I also think that in doing that, by making those choices, by choosing to center something in the middle, by choosing to allow a haphazard experience to be kind of manifested in the work, that there's still a connection to maybe the way we think about the way we are, not just in nature, but within a bigger picture that your other work seems to always address. I don't know. I think for me, I could probably continue to kind of extend that conversation, even though it doesn't include a particular politician. But there's still a Karen Fiorito attitude to how you're working with your materials, and thinking about the content, whether you want to kind of not think about it or not, it's still kind of there. There's a different kind of sensitivity that this work reveals in the way it's conceived. And I think, again, it kind of goes back to that sense of joy and kind of like allowing something else to control this rather than events of the day. Anyway, I just...
Well, that was very lovely, Sydney. Thank you for that. Those words, that's very meaningful, especially coming from a master printer as yourself. Sydney is one of the most amazing printmakers, artists.
Just really nice work.
Sort of an expression of values take place in both bodies of work.
Yeah.
So that way there's
Yeah, a value system is clearly present. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
in both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, like in a way, like I even said in my statement, I'm kind of always rebelling against things, you know what I mean? That's just my nature. I've always rebelled against society, against, expectations of women or whatever it was, and I feel like this is kind of a rebellion of that, trying to be like that perfect artist, trying to be like, I'm so amazing stuff. Look at me. It's more of like my vulnerabilities and I feel very exposed with this work in a way where it's like, this is another side of me that I feel like I don't show people because I'm trying to be like this, I don't know, tough person,
Well, the other stuff is it all questions certain things, but the other stuff that you do, the more political stuff, like I said, rebellion or questioning, how we should treat one another to be. I think it just shows up in a different way in this one.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Thank you. Well, I feel very honored. Thank you.
Wonderful. Question behind the camera. So, two-part. Does music impact your process in any way? And can you share an early memory of when you wanted to become an artist?
Well, I think I do love to listen to music when I'm working or printing, usually. But sometimes I listen to podcasts too.
That's great.
But I do love music. It does inspire me when I'm in the process of printing. Like I really need that music. Like it makes everything flow.
Yeah.
Like really nice. My earliest memories of being an artist.
Or wanting to be like any spark moments,
My great aunt was an artist, and she wasn't like famous or trained or anything. She was self-taught, and she grew up in the Depression. Like they didn't have any money. They were immigrants, but she always painted, and she was like a draftsperson in World War II. And she was like my inspiration, I think, to become an artist, because she taught me how to paint and sew, and I used to make clothes for stuffed animals, and like she was just super creative, and like she taught me how to cook, and like I was only like 5 and she's like teaching me how to cook, and my parents were like, don't let her near an oven, like are you crazy? But she, you know, she's like, yeah, you know, because like in her generation, you started learning how to cook and clean and sew and do all that when you're like tiny. I mean, she had to quit school when she was 8 years old to raise 4 brothers, you know, and work in a factory for 25 cents a day. But she did it. She joined the army. She, you know, she was tough. Like she was a tough lady, but funny. You know, bright red hair. She was just always like make you laugh. She was like the coolest person. But she always did these like paintings of like swans and palm trees and really kitschy stuff. But she taught me how to paint, and she made me want to be an artist. And it's funny because I remember my mom was like, "You can't be an artist because only rich people can be artists. You're never going to be rich." And I was like, oh shit. But I went to art school anyway. But
It worked out. It worked out. You're an artist. Yeah. Amazing. I'm glad it, yeah, that was awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. All right.
Well, I hope everyone had some muffins or coffee, or take some apples with you or pomegranate.
Let's do it.